Beyond. We did this horribly wrong.
I'm out of practice.
I don't think that's how it's supposed to work.
This is horrible. All right, welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 395. I am Max Scoville. Joining me today, out of order because of pageantry, Jared Petty.
Hi, I'm Pageantress.
Talmadge Blevins.
Hello.
And returning the prodigal son, Andrew Goldfarb.
Yay!
Hey, Greg, you look different.
Golf claps.
Yeah.
Golf claps. Greg lost a lot of weight.
I got traded off a team fat.
Yeah, I got really nervous the first time I met Max. It was new, and I was just the first thing I stuck my hand out and I just said, "Hello, replacement Greg," and that was what came out of my mouth. So that was a good
I
start
cried the
there.
first time I met Max.
Really, you cried?
You bring that up all the time.
Why did you
It's
cry?
weird.
Why did you
Yeah.
cry?
We were in a bar. I moved here after a pretty bad breakup, and I was like,
Was it with
Altano.
Max?
It was with Max. Yeah. Altano brought me out to a bar to meet people. I just started crying.
Was that the first time we met?
Wow.
Yeah, that was like 2011. That was like August 2011.
I thought we'd hung out before then, and then you brought that up like I don't know if
I
that
like
was.
bringing it up a lot.
It was. I mean, I don't think it's. I like you. I don't think it's awkward, but I think it's really funny that you still bring that up. And I'm like, all right.
I just want people to know about it.
You're a sensitive fellow.
Yeah,
for a while,
I wear my emotions on my sleeve.
I was for a while. I was hassling you because you went and worked at a video game company that was partially responsible for Duke Nukem Forever. So, and you went to work there after that came out, but I still blame you.
Now, hold on.
Wow.
I thought you were just on vacation.
I was on a long vacation in Texas. Yeah,
What's a long vacation in Texas like?
hot.
Okay.
And quiet.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of crime.
Huh.
We were talking about guns in Texas, and
Yeah, there's not a lot of crime in Texas, like in Waco right now.
Okay, well, in my particular area, there was not a lot of crime, and there are folks have guns. They eat a lot.
Yeah.
There's
Wow.
lots of queso, lots of Tex-Mex.
Okay.
Do they ever eat it with their guns? Do they ever? Is it like
Probably.
a dipper?
That sounds
Like a-
unsafe.
the gun spoon is a
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
Did
It's
you-
the fourth
Yeah.
utensil
They have
down
that
there.
gun lighter. Why not a gun spoon?
As
like
seen
a
on
sport,
TV.
you know, but with a gun and a spoon.
Did you purchase any
Makes sense.
firearms while you were in Texas?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not purchase any firearms.
I married
But I
into
stole
a
some.
I married into a firearms family, and my father-in-law just keeps giving me guns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this slowly growing arsenal of deadly weaponry.
He's not like starting a militia or anything, is he?
No, he just collects guns, and he likes to share that with me. And I grew up around guns. I mean, I was a Boy Scout and grew up in a like farm area in the mountains and learned to shoot and stuff. So I don't mind it. But
I'm glad this podcast hasn't changed at all. We're just talking about whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
I grew up around queso, as you can tell.
what is this thing you have? What is that?
I have a special letter or something here to share with everybody. I have not opened this up yet. It is still sealed. It is for Talmadge Blevins at IGN PlayStation 2. So this may have been stuck in our mail room for about 15 years now.
Oh my
I hope
god.
that's true.
Yeah.
It has pancakes on the
It's
stamp.
from Breakfastarian headquarters. That's why it has pancakes on the stamp.
No, what are the Breakfastarians? Is that like a really strange, obscure sect of Christianity?
I think
or?
they're like Rastafarians who eat a lot of pancakes.
Are you think it's maybe like a subsect of the Pastafarians?
Yeah, it might be, but Breakfastarians.
The flying pancake
Yeah.
monster or something?
Yeah, I don't know what we actually we tried to Google Breakfastarian headquarters and nothing came up on Google, so that worries me even more as to what
Okay.
this could possibly be.
I'm
Well,
hoping
they're
we-
not tracked
yeah.
on the internet, but let's
Open it
open
and
this
kill
up
us all.
for IGN PlayStation 2. So you know it has to be something important at
All
this
right, what do
point.
we have here? Open it up. What's
Special
inside?
reveal,
I'm a little bit scared.
hermetically
A little
sealed.
too.
Let's see. It starts out. Oh, there's an egg in the shape of a heart. This is so
Okay,
adorable.
that's lovely.
Okay.
Adorable. Okay.
Join the movement. As breakfastarians, we believe in having breakfast anytime, especially for dinner. I agree with that. I concur.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Please help us gain more breakfast acceptance by sharing our message with the world. Wear this pin proudly, and remember, see the light,
pin. That's a
eat
bigger
breakfast
pin
at
than I
night.
expected.
And it, you know what? I was really expecting a kind of a better graphical treatment here.
Or maybe
than
just the egg on the heart. That
yeah,
was a great pin.
it just says "Go Breakfastarian."
Okay.
I
yeah,
don't-
I was kind of hoping for the last PlayStation 2 game, like Secretly Lost in a Wall. So I'm very sad.
I
I
It
love
was
Well-
this is addressed to 4-3.
I-
It's like everything about
and it got
is-
here.
Yeah.
They have the only thing that makes me like not completely terrified of this. I guess I'm scared of old mail.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I think I just figured that out just now. Like
That it
I got
has
really
spiders in it?
nervous by the thought of getting mail from a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think this is
like a
actually
horror
old.
movie
I think they
trope,
just
right?
have me on a list for some reason
Okay.
under IGN
Yeah.
PlayStation
It's
2.
just-
But with the address, like you said, we have had some weird packages delivered. We actually had a package one time. Now, this was years ago at the old office, but it said Fran Mirabella III, care of IGN Entertainment, or actually I think it might have said care of Fran Mirabella III at Fran Mirabella III Boulevard. And,
Are you
And
sure
it was
Fran didn't just write
No,
that
it
to
was
himself?
amazing. And
Okay.
actually, it got delivered simply because I think maybe the post office guy was a stalker of Fran Mirabella III. Maybe he's Mark Nix's dad.
So why are you scared of old mail, Max?
I don't know, but I'm really reassured that they do have a Twitter link on there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Which is
That makes them that much more modern.
So you
which is
can.
just breakfastarians.
This was not paid for at all. You can go to gobreakfastarian.org.
Okay.
This was not a paid
See, the
promotion.
.org wouldn't have put my mind at ease because I was like, that's an uncommon.
It's the serial killer domain.
Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah.
Why not breakfastarian.egg? Why could they?
Does that
They could have
exist?
done. Yeah, sure. Why not?
All
Just
right,
make
so
your
this
own
is a
URLs
PlayStation
now.
podcast sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, this came from PlayStation 2, so it's on topic.
Have you
Okay.
been to a podcast? Have you introduced who you are, what you do here?
I've never been on Beyond.
I just want people to
Yeah,
understand.
Tal, you're our
the
boss.
glory.
So
Yeah, the boss's boss's boss.
I have been at IGN for almost 18 years now. I started back in '98 when IGN we were basically just writing on stone tablets.
Okay.
And we would send those out to everybody. We would send everybody breakfastarian buttons.
Nice.
okay.
So that what comes around goes around.
So if anybody listening gets mad at this for getting off topic, it's because you can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah,
Pretty
exactly.
much,
We have
yeah.
no right to stop you.
You're
Wolfram
trying
was
to
like, I have to be in a meeting, and I was like, Tal, he's trying to weasel out of this.
But yeah, I'm the publisher here.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the publisher, and I've been I was an editor. Started as an editor on the site. Was editor in chief for a while, but now the publisher. Have the content.
Wow.
Well, here we are. And by the way, Brian and Marty Brian's on his honeymoon, and Marty's at Judges Week, which is like the opposite of a honeymoon.
Yeah.
We
And
got
I'm
some
staying
stuff to
in
talk
Tom's
about.
house.
Yeah.
Oh, you're staying in his empty home. Yeah, that's how is that?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Can you tell us some dirt? Can you tell us some secrets?
It's clean.
It's very clean.
Have you gone?
He has a one corner with all his like video game stuff, and then the rest of it is just like a very nice, pleasant apartment.
Yeah, Brian's a very he likes to keep it a secret, but he's very type A. Like he's very very neat, and he's kind of fussy in really weird ways. But you'll only see it occasionally. But most of the time, he's like, "Yo, I'm wearing sunglasses inside. Let's have a pizza."
Brap, I'm cleaning.
Yeah.
Do you ever
I
like?
like rap music and rolling my sleeves up, and you're like, "All right."
That's funny.
But then he'll be like, "Oh, that food fell on the floor. Don't eat that. That's awful." So they released the most underwhelming teaser for the new Doom,
Yeah.
and by they I mean Bethesda. We literally.
It's like 1 second.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's. I mean, do you consider it underwhelming, or you just consider it just so short that you just? I saw it and I just can't really feel. I wasn't underwhelmed or overwhelmed or anything. I didn't feel much emotion at all. I was
If
like,
you're
well,
gonna-
that's there.
Reveal an 11-second teaser trailer that shows 1 second of anything.
I was gonna say it was only 11 seconds because they had like the Peggy beforehand, and then they had the logo. For
Yeah,
a
they
long
might as well
time.
have called it an animated screenshot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really more. It was
think it
like
would be-
first Doom screenshot that happens to move.
It would be really fun to take other trailers and condense them down to just like 1 second of footage.
I like that idea.
Ah.
With the micro trailers. Yeah,
See-
it's like that's one of those instances where if they're going to be that stingy with assets, then just put out an image. That
Yeah.
works fine.
But I nonetheless,
I wonder if they'll do more drops though, right? I
jump-
wonder if they'll do more and then they'll piece together into one big thing before E3 or something like that.
it's like frames, just gradually, like you get a little more motion of
Maybe
little
they're trying to do
skeleton guy
something
every
viral.
time. Yeah.
I like that.
All right, I'm good with that.
I mean, I think the game, like the footage they did at QuakeCon, everyone really liked. It was super well received, and I know like those 2 seconds, I'm like, that looks like Doom in a positive way. Like,
Yeah.
so, I don't know. I'm interested to see it. I'm surprised. Like that's like crazy that they still haven't. They showed like a lot of footage at QuakeCon. It still isn't out there at all.
Yeah.
And that never happens in 24 or 2015. What years?
Did you see it, Andrew?
No, I was.
No,
well,
okay, I
was
wouldn't know
actually
if you're
at
there or
QuakeCon,
not.
But I wasn't at the part where they
At that
showed
part,
it.
okay, I wonder about
we
that.
haven't seen a whole lot from Bethesda recently, so I mean, this E3 should be pretty big with them, especially because they're doing a whole press conference.
Yeah, they're going to show some stuff off. It looks like from what we saw here today, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it was Jeremy Parrish said once that the 3 video games your grandma's heard of are Pac-Man, Mario, and Doom. And this is a big deal. This is gaming royalty. I mean, if you've never read Masters of Doom, it's one of the best books on video game culture that's been written thus far. I really recommend you do. It's a fascinating story, but it changed our industry in fundamental ways. Changed what we thought computers were capable of. Changed what we thought game design studios should be capable of. Laid the groundwork for everything from Oculus to the collapse of Ion Storm. It's a really big deal. So all the stuff around the game is really interesting, and Doom itself and Doom 2 as well are game design masterpieces. They're some of the finest video games I've ever played in a lifetime of enjoying the hobby.
Yeah, it's like it's the same thing that Mario did, but with guns and Satan,
Yeah, exactly.
heavy metal, and shooting guys in the face.
There's a little bit of Satan in Mario.
Oh,
Yeah,
where was the
well-
Satan in Mario?
I mean, it's a lot of red, right?
You got to play Doctor.
That's right.
Going
Okay,
into
so-
dark tubes and things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Come on.
Yeah, you go fight the guy with the horns at the end. He's in a place full of fire.
Okay, that works out. Yeah, absolutely.
Your Dark Lord is in another castle.
Miyamoto did make a game with Satan in it. Devil World's got Satan in it. Like that's a Miyamoto game.
Okay.
Yeah.
He made Popeye too, didn't he?
You ever play Devil
all
World?
these Satanist games.
No. Really, Devil World is like you versus Satan. It's like Pac-Man versus Satan.
Have
It's
you
a
ever
Miyamoto game.
considered breakfastarianism?
I listen. I eat 6 meals a day, and 3 of them are breakfast. So yeah, I'm very Hobbit-like. Also, fuzzy feet. The end. Let's talk about Doom.
Yeah, what makes Doom Doom? What is like Doom 3 came out, and that was what 12 years in the making, something like that, and it was generally it was sort of good, but also kind of underwhelming. It kind of missed the mark. It was kind of like any of the Mortal Kombat entries between 4 and 8, basically. You know,
It was a lot of that. What made that design so good years ago doesn't necessarily hold up these days, right? It's a lot of monster closets, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of, you can kind of tell where they're going to come out because when you round a corner, you kind of get a sense of, okay, there's something that's going to open up there and the creature's going to come out. Like, what do you guys want out of Doom? Like, if you were going to get a new Doom, like, what do you want to see?
What I want is what I think works so well in the original that's mostly lost to game design today. You said, can you go back to it? I don't know, but speed. What I love about Doom is speed, which does not translate well to a console controller. I mean, one of the reasons that shooters have become relatively slow and clutchy is because there's only so much you can do with analogs. Mice and keyboards are just faster. That doesn't make them better. This isn't some kind of a PC mastery thing. It's just different. And Doom harnessed that control mechanism better than anything else. I've played Doom on Xbox Live, for example, and it still plays pretty well. But that sense of speed is what I'd like to see. I'd like to them to find a way to cross-platform, make everything feel fast, responsive, twitchy, like you're in perfect control of what's happening. People talked about how the new Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was almost Quake-like in its speed. Almost Quake-like. I want something that reminds me of what it's like just to fly around a level, blazing weapons, good level design, lots of different places to go, non-linear paths. That's all works in
That's
Doom.
what I wonder about, with Doom. Like, Doom has traditionally been a pretty linear game, right? Are we going to see that same kind of design coming up in the new one? You bring up Quake, and that is really a game that I think about when I think about really fast shooter action. But that's all about the multiplayer, too, right? And playing against humans.
Yeah.
What we've seen out of Doom traditionally is this linear design. It is something that is very much going down a creepy hallway. Great atmosphere, great effects, things like that, right? I expect to see that out of Doom. But, I'm not sure if they're going to mess too much with the formula, because then would it really be Doom? But then would that formula really work these days, too?
Do you
right?
think of Doom as a linear game? Because I remember a lot of backtracking, a lot of key carding, a lot of finding secrets. Do you feel the Doom's still pretty linear?
I felt it was a really linear game. Although, you go back in the same level. I mean, it's still a very linear shooter in that you're very confined in one space.
There's definitely that, yeah. And you also mentioned the single player, but don't forget that Doom's the game that really introduced deathmatch to the masses. I mean, this is the game that the term was coined for Doom.
Yeah.
And for me, Doom was very much that. It was a game of blowing your friends away in a way that you'd never been able to do in a video game before. Whatever else they capture, I think that's going to be a vital part of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I grew up playing Doom on my friend's computer and later on my own computer when my mom would leave me alone unattended, and it's got this kind of, I'm tied it to Mortal Kombat because it's got this same like almost archetypal, what do 13-year-olds think is really cool? And it's just
bloody heads
chainsaws
on
and
sticks.
Satan and guts and just explosions and stuff like that. I mean, you get the BFG. It's something kind of inherently just really, really stupid, but also really glorious. And it's I don't know. I hope they managed to recapture that, and I think the speed really ties in with that because it almost like for 3 they kind of almost drew more from a survival horror approach, whereas the original was like you were trying to survive and there was horror, but it was much more like just it was run and gun.
Yeah, you could not shoot and use your flashlight at the same time in 3. That right there, that slowed the game down tremendously.
Really, too, for me, Doom is a lot about the iconic sound effects as well. So really thinking about sound design in this day and age. They always are able to create this really great atmosphere with those games, right? So I am really looking forward to seeing it at E3, just to see what it's out there. I have to say, my days of really liking linear shooters are kind of past me. I like bigger experiences now. I like something that maybe has a bit of a more mature story that I can get into. But I'm very curious to see how Doom is actually going to pan out. And like you're saying, like the tease today it was neither underwhelming or overwhelming anything for me. I felt no emotion at all because I was like, okay, there's like a brief half-second glimpse of this creature.
There was a skeleton with guns. That's always a good thing. I can't think of a time that a skeleton with a gun has been a bad thing. Even Mr. Bones' little skeleton guy was okay. But yeah, do read Masters of Doom if you haven't. It's a wonderful treatise on how video games got made and get made today.
Cool. Doom. Goldfarb, I want to talk to you about something. You left games, covering games, to go work on making games. Tell us about that.
And now I'm back. Yeah, it was really interesting to see things from the other side. I think, holy crap, I learned a lot about like what a developer is versus a publisher and how some of the business stuff works. And I think it's
Did you
really...
not know the difference between a developer and a publisher when you worked at IGN before, Andrew?
I did, but I don't think to the extent that I do now.
Sure.
Yeah, yes, though, I did. Tal. God. No, I mean, I think, honestly, I learned a lot, I think. And some of those lessons will maybe apply to my job here.
That's good.
At IGN.
Well, I have to say, like, everything that goes into game development, it's something I think that a lot of people on the journalism side don't necessarily get, right? And I think having that perspective now, super valuable to the process.
Yeah.
Because game development is freaking hard and you know, and intricate. And there are a lot more people working on a single project than you would actually think. I mean, there are hundreds of people that touch a project.
I mean, Anthony Birch wrote this great bit for Kotaku pretty recently. Did you work with him at all? Was he there? Yeah. And he's like, he wrote about how up until working at Gearbox, he was like writing, snarky comments about, oh, like this game could be better. And he's like, well, people who make games frequently know that. They are aware of it, and it's...
Yeah, it's that weird boat, right, where having seen it from the other side, it's like, yeah, a lot of work does go into it, but I think it's also important to, now that I've returned to this side, which I guess is kind of atypical, but like being back on this side, you also have to separate yourself from that, right? Because like, yeah, like a lot of people can work on something, but that doesn't mean it gets a pass,
Sure.
Like you still, like a job as a critic is still to like take into account, like, okay, like this isn't, what it could have been. But yeah, I mean, I think it is crazy how many people you can see, like 8 people working on a single texture for a single door or whatever, like, and I think I understand more about like the different disciplines and kind of what goes into, from concept to actual execution. Like there are a lot more steps than I think I would have understood previously.
Well, I think too, just the average person, they think about games and movies kind of similarly, and games actually have a 3, 5, 7 year time to really develop. You can really get a movie out in probably 18 months to 2 years, depending on how intricate and the effects are and everything. But really, like making a game is just so much bigger in time. I mean, you literally are creating this project out of nothing. You can't just go out and film people, well, unless you're like Jordan Mechner back in the day, and make a game around that. But you can't just go out and film people, just with a great story. Like, there's a lot of technical aspects that go into it, and I just don't think the average gamer out there, and sometimes not even a lot of journalists, understand all the intricacies that go into that.
Yeah, I would agree with
and
that.
That it's a business. I mean, it is a business. They need to make money.
And I was more, I wasn't actually making content for games, so I think like I saw it from this weird like
well, then why are we
outsider
talking
but also insider perspective. Yeah, actually, I'm just kidding. I wrote all of that. No, I think it's really interesting there though, and I think Gearbox especially, like there are a lot of incredibly talented people there. It was really cool getting to see them. Even like simple things like just watching people mess around.
One less now, am I right?
Yeah. Well.
So what surprised you, Andrew? When you came into it, just like, wow, what really did just go? I never thought of that before.
I mean, I don't think it's any one specific thing, but I think in general it's the kind of looking at like, oh, there's an entire department for this, like whereas I might have just, assumed like, oh, like that door doesn't open in that cutscene, they got to patch that. That's probably easy. And then it's like, nope, that goes into a lot of different things, like understanding like tool sets and understanding that it's like, I don't know what I thought game development was. I don't know if I thought it was just people dragging and dropping, stickers into a whatever.
It's a more fleshed out Mario Paint suite.
Yeah, exactly. But seriously,
there's
like
3 cat noises now.
Like I play Pinball Construction Set.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
just like RPG Maker.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's really interesting when you see like, oh, there's like a very unique tool set for this thing, and like the just every single piece that goes into like understanding like how to use an engine and like every like timing things, and just I don't know, it's just really fascinating watching them work.
Let me flip this on you, Andrew.
Oh, why do you gotta make that weird hand gesture with your...
I was just in Hawaii. What do you think game devs don't understand about the journo side, about the media side? Because you've seen both sides of it now. I'm sure some things came up.
I think it's actually funny that there really is this weird perception that it's like a lot of the stuff and this isn't really like Gearbox specifically, just from talking to various devs at events and stuff, but I think there is occasionally that perception of like, oh, like, so like, do like game reviewers ever get paid off, and like is like the stuff I read on NeoGAF true? Because like you have to understand, like a lot of people are viewing this from the outside, or they will see a game get a really bad review and think there's some kind of personal vendetta, or think it's like, oh, like I guess they should have had a nicer press event or whatever. Like I was shocked talking to a lot of people on that side who do think that way. And granted, God, that's a small percentage. And
Sure.
they're incredible people, and a lot of people go from press to the dev side, so they understand it. But as far as like things that surprise me, when I would occasionally hear someone say something like that, I was like, wow, like people really think that happens, huh? But no, I think also like it's that idea of just people don't really understand, like when you're going to an E3 or whatever, like you might see like 20 games in a row in a single day or whatever, and if you're game number 3, like you have to stand out. And I think from that side, it was really interesting seeing people kind of wrap their heads around that, and like because you get so focused in on, okay, like we're making this game and we have to tell people about it, and like we're gonna try and like drive like sales of this game, but you have to remember that like it has to stand out against that many other things. And I think people lose sight of like just how busy a lot of the games press is.
That makes a lot of sense. Losing touch with the ecosystem around them. Yeah. It's what about all the stories about just how hard people work? Is it all true?
I mean, it depends, right? Depends on timing. Yeah, I think like Gearbox actually has some really good producers who made sure that like the people weren't going too crazy. But yeah, I mean, like, sure, I think any dev has crunch, and I don't know. It's I think like seeing just my tiny little window of the industry, right? Like obviously I was at one dev, but I think those guys all work really hard. But I think there's like healthy balances and stuff, and man, Gearbox has like so many cool like benefits and food and like all this cool stuff that they.
Sorry, our snacks aren't good enough for you.
I know. You gotta rub it in now, Andrew.
We have Bagel Day.
That's true. Is Bagel Day still a thing?
Oh yeah, still Day. Every Wednesday, Bagel Day.
I think it's also worth noting that everywhere is different, just in terms of basic structure, because that's what happens when you get a bunch of human beings to try and collaborate on something. You're going to have different personalities who operate in different fashions. But even beyond that, like
Beyond.
I always love Beyond. I always love the title producer. It's not that it doesn't mean anything. It's that it means so many different things.
Sure.
Where it's like I always kind of equate it to like saying you're a model, and there's this preconceived notion where you say like, oh yeah, I'm a producer. You're like, you have this kind of weird, so it's like Jerry Bruckheimer, where you're like, oh, I'm a model. It's like, what do you model? I model elderly swimwear for Sears print catalogs. Like it's just you can be that unsexy one, or
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think producer. So like that's the problem, right? I think a lot of people understand roles in film in a way they don't in games, and they think that a producer for a film is the same thing as a producer in games, and that's not true. And I think even like leads of various departments and like what a creative director does at one studio versus another, like I think like there's just a lot of interesting differences in the actual roles on a team. And especially I was in a studio with 250 plus people, like obviously on a game being made by 6 people, it's very different. So
yeah,
imagine so. What's a producer do?
I mean, think of it more like a project manager, right? It's somebody who just makes sure everyone's hitting deadlines and make sure that responsibilities are being tasked appropriately and things like that. And
Spreadsheets and timers.
Sure it changes per studio, but yeah, I mean, it is. It's like it's a lot of the organization.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of big, huge games,
Boom, boom.
Assassin's Creed Syndicate got revealed.
Yay!
With a very kind of odd little, very self-aware statement from Ubisoft.
Yeah, and they did the video the other day, and it starts out with hey, we're Ubisoft, and the people who work here love making games, and here we are in our studio making some games, and Ubisoft gives us all kinds of freedom to make the kind of games we want, and we can try new things, and then just flash, bad review for Unity, bad review for Unity, bad review for Unity up on the screen, including ours, and or comment from that review anyway, and they're like, yeah. So we tried some new things and it didn't work out. We'll get it right this time, guys. We're sorry, and we promise we'll be fun this time. And that was a very interesting piece of damage control that I appreciated.
Yeah, I thought it was very refreshing.
Yeah, I did too.
I love it when companies are honest, or at least just try to be a little bit genuine. Just acknowledging that they're not in a vacuum.
Yeah, and for an annualized franchise, it's really important to recognize when you do make a misstep, because it's like, I think it's cool that this one doesn't have co-op. I actually think that's like something that, in my opinion anyway, I think people probably liked it, but like I don't think it needed it. And so I think it's important, like when you're iterating every single year, like realize what didn't work and move on from it.
Yeah.
I love it. I go back to those over a decade ago. Hardee's came out with these commercials just like, our hamburgers suck, so we're making new hamburgers that are good. And that's what they did. They just went on television and said, our food is bad.
Has Domino's
gotten
any better? I still haven't had Domino's.
I haven't had Domino's, so I don't know. Sega did the same thing with the Sega Dreamcast when it came out. They're just like, we're so sorry, guys. Really. It was too late, unfortunately. It's a brilliant ad campaign if you ever watch any of them. But yeah, somebody comes to you and says, yeah, we recognize that we put something in front of you you didn't want. We're sorry. We're going to make it right. And they also said, hey, it's a room full of people that love making video games. And that's true. You don't go work for a game studio for the most part if you don't want to.
And it's exactly what we were just talking about. There are people behind it, right? It's not like it's not like an algorithm that cranks out a game, right? There are people there making it. And,
and also, like we said, like they're aware of this. They knew that the game wasn't that great when it came out. They knew they were, if they had some more time to fix some things, that they could have gotten it to a better point. But it's great that they're now acknowledging it, that saying, hey, you know what? We're aware of these things and we admit our missteps and we're going to make sure that they don't happen again. Now, let's hope they follow through with that.
Right.
Let's hope they certainly have enough time. But it is a good message at least to have now.
But it's go ahead.
Yeah, that being said, I like Syndicate, I feel like I'm really kind of exhausted by Assassin's Creed, and I've let myself get excited so many times.
You've been fooled before.
Yeah, and it just becomes this thing where I don't even want to, I just want to.
Like every other one is good for me. Like I wasn't a big fan of 1, but I really liked 2. 3 I didn't really care for, but 4 was, Black Sails was really good. So I'm hoping now that we have another, full release coming out, that this one will be a really good one.
They're like Star Trek movies now. They're just the even numbered ones are good.
Yeah,
that's maybe I'm not crazy about annualized franchises of any kind. I think it's a good idea to let people rest and let ideas rest so that you can have a little time to reflect on them as an industry changes. But as that goes, there's a Batman gun now, and there's GTA mechanics for stealing carriages and running over people with them, and there's Sherlock Holmes stuff going on, and I get to use and apparently
a female protagonist.
Yeah, there's a female protagonist, which is a really big deal, and there's
how difficult that is.
There's gas that turns your enemies against each other, and then and I get to team up with Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens to destroy evil.
That's the thing. It's a very nerdy but cool time period. I actually really, really like that they're this setting. I like Assassin's Creed. It's funny because I feel like I have just been burned out on it for a while, but not because of the franchise necessarily, but more because I guess it is because of the franchise. Just I played every single one leading up until Black Flag, and then I just took a break, and now I'm ready to jump back in and be excited again, I think.
Assassin's Creed has always kind of had that flow through of the age of science and age of discovery, kind of thing, with Leonardo da Vinci being, and, with all these great inventors and thinkers as being part of the storyline. So it is interesting to go to Victorian England and see, what the world's going to be like.
And in that presentation, they kept using the terms fun. And you both brought up Black Flag now. I mean, Black Flag is the Assassin's Creed that doesn't care about Templars and Assassins. It's just about, let's go be a freaking pirate.
And everyone loves it.
Yeah, and everyone loves it. Well, they showed a lot of Black Flag footage before they revealed Syndicate, and they said that word fun over and over and over and over. And so maybe they're hoping to be like, oh yeah, but that one you liked, we're going to go that. Again, is that messaging? Because the fact is, let's not let them completely off the hook. They also released Unity when they did.
Yep.
And that also says something about what goes into the production.
That is the problem with annualized titles. I can't really think of any off the top of my head of anyone where they've said, you know what, we're not going to do it this year because, maybe actually, didn't EA skip a NBA Live? Was that?
I don't know.
Yeah, they skipped an NBA, and they skipped
because they released one and it wasn't very, very good.
Didn't they skip a Battlefield year somewhere in there?
Yeah. I guess there are a few examples, but the reality is, for the most part, they're on set release schedules, and they have to make money for their quarterlies because they're mostly public companies, and they don't want to move these annualized titles. But that's the thing about game development too. If something's not done, you're shipping an unfinished product at that point. So,
it's also not like it's only a 1-year dev cycle. they have multiple studios. Of course. They have now Toronto and Montreal are splitting the stuff. Same thing with Call of Duty. There's 4 studios now that are actively trading back and forth on 3-year cycles. I think it allows them to learn from mistakes, which is really good. But obviously they're beholden to, we have to hit this fiscal year and we have to come out of this.
I'm also a huge proponent though of holding a game. If you're push it back, push a release date back. And again, it's harder to do with annualized titles, but push a release date back if it's going to make a better product in the end. Because I would much rather wait 6 months to have a really fantastic, fleshed out, well-made game that I can really play, and then having a buggy piece of crap.
One of those comes out tomorrow. The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
Wild Hunt.
shiny.
They pushed that one back, and I'm glad.
Have you been playing this? You've been playing this.
You
want to come on and talk about this?
I've only played a little bit of it so far. I did actually play it on my vacation in Hawaii. I was sitting there in Maui watching the beach and playing my PS4 because that's just how much of a nerd I am. But no, so far I'm having a lot of fun with it. My favorite part is that I have a horse named Roach. I just want to buy a horse and call him Roach in real life.
So here's a little piece of trivia from the world of The Witcher. Geralt actually just names every horse he gets Roach.
No, I know.
Yeah, everyone.
Which I think is a lovely touch. You know,
my horse Roach.
No, which was more colorful, Tal? The beach at Maui or the game? Because one of the things that just grabbed me about Witcher 3 is that it's a naturalistic game. It's an outdoor game, but unlike games that are produced in the West like that, which usually tend to focus on kind of darker color schemes, that game's just bursting with color.
There was much better grass physics in the game than there was in Maui.
Okay,
Not much grass movement in Maui, but in the game, the grass looks absolutely beautiful. No, I just love, too, that now having a Witcher, having played 1 on the PC and having played 2 on the consoles, you know, they were a little bit more linear experiences, smaller, closed areas as well, although they felt pretty big. But this, you see it in the distance, you can go anywhere. So it's great to be able to have this big open world where, again, you jump on your horse and you're able to just ride off in the distance. It's just something that's new for that kind of Witcher setup. It kind of reminded me a lot of obviously Dragon Age, which I played a lot of this past fall, but honestly, even bigger. Because still, Dragon Age, some of the areas felt like little small vignettes within this bigger world, right?
There seems to be kind of I see him riding around there on Roach, and it's almost of a Legend of Zelda with bare breasts kind of vibe I keep getting from it. Did you guys play Witcher 2?
Yeah.
No, okay. So
I played 1 second of a Witcher game.
Okay, so Witcher 2, I did the guide for 1UP back in the olden days, and just fell in love with the game because it's one of the very few video games I've ever played where the choices you make a huge difference
in the world,
what happens. Like not just a difference, but just a tremendous. I mean, there is a vast chunk of Witcher 2 that you will not see if you make certain choices, and vice versa. And
you can affect politics, and you can affect...
Oh, yeah, you play through one scenario, and it's not even clear exactly where the forks are always, and you find yourself on one side of this vast, morally ambiguous war, and you play through the second time, and you make some other choices, and you're on the other side of the same war, and the people that were all your allies the time before are your dire enemies. And you hate them, but... yet you worked with them once before, so now you know they're actually all pretty decent people, or most of them, and it's a really good... And are we allowed to spoil Witcher 2 here or not? I don't know. Is it too early?
No, you can talk about Witcher 2.
It's never been on PlayStation, so...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert for Witcher 2. But the final boss battle of Witcher 2 is my favorite in any video game ever, because by the time you've been chasing this guy the whole game, and he's just made your life miserable, and you chase him, and you chase him, and you chase him, and when you finally catch up with him, you've discovered through the course of 20 hours of play, actually he was kind of a victim of the whole thing too. He was kind of being used. He was just trying to survive. And yeah, he did all this stuff, but he wasn't really vindictive about it. And you find him, and you do, again, in the course of the conversation, and it's not just like a binary choice. You have the option to just kind of talk it out with him and be like, we really have no reason to hate each other anymore. Shake hands and walk away and have no final climactic boss battle. Or you can have that big final thing. Yeah, or you can kill him and have the big standard video game moment. But, I mean, they were brave enough to just be like, no, there will be no climax to this game.
Well, that shows a tremendous amount of faith in their product that they would bury half their game behind a choice. You know? Like, you cannot see the entirety of the game unless you... Like, that you could not have something that is less of a linear experience and that you have to retread. Like, you have to backtrack the entire game, basically.
Yep.
That's half a game there that you have to replay to get to.
Well, that's what I think too. I really like a lot of the choices that you make in The Witcher because just the lore and the world itself, it is so gray. It's not black and white at all. I mean, you are basically a hero, but you're an anti-hero as well, right? You are a mercenary. You work for money. You don't do a lot of things for free because although you go up and clean up problems if a monster comes into town, you got to get paid for that. That's your job, you know? So it's not just like you're this shining, knight in armor. You're this kind of grizzled... old, mean mutant that nobody really likes either, and you're going around making a paycheck.
But at the same time, you're not like Cloud strifing your way through up your own butt either. I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm obviously such an anti-hero. There's not that element either. It's
it's like... I hope that's actually a line of dialogue in there.
For Final Fantasy VII, yeah, I think so.
Honestly, so many games are like hero-villain. Like, this is much more real world to me in terms of the way the story plays out because people have a lot of different shades within themselves.
Yeah. No, the reality is that are rarely yes, no, good, bad, black, white answers to things. It's like a lot of times both parties are sort of wrong, but with their own valid, opinions on things.
Yeah.
And The Witcher's, it's so frustrating to see stuff that doesn't do that after seeing The Witcher kind of nail it.
Right. Well, it reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones, right? Because there are characters in Game of Thrones you can absolutely hate and who do horrible things, but you understand why they're doing them. You understand their motives. You get it because it's like the real world, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in this world, like Andrew, who does horrible things. No, you don't do horrible
Oh
things.
my,
It's so good to have
Andrew.
you back. Day one, and already it started.
Already doing horrible things. The only thing, it's funny because listening to this, it's like the closest thing I can even think of is like New Vegas. Because like in New Vegas, you can completely determine the end. Like, I mean, you really can just not have a fight at the dam, depending on what you chose. But I mean, that sounds like a barely scratching the surface of the depth of something like this.
Totally change the politics in that game too, right?
I love New Vegas. I actually, in some ways, think it's better than Fallout 3. But this sounds like I'm gonna play Witcher 3. I mean, it's such a deep world that I feel weird going into it blind and not having played Witcher 1
I was going to say, so somebody who has predominantly been a PlayStation gamer, right? What do you feel about this series finally coming to the PlayStation?
I mean, it looks gorgeous. I mean, since that first trailer, God, that was when I still worked here, I think. I mean,
you work here today, Andrew.
When I worked here the first time. I think it's gorgeous, and I'm excited for it, and I like that choice system, and I like kind of the mechanics I've seen in it. Like, I think everything I watch about it interests me, and obviously the reviews have been really good. I don't know. I tend to be scared away by a world with that much mythology that I just don't know. And I think it's kind of daunting to step into, hey, this is the third installment of a story-rich series. Good luck. And I think, like, I hope they make it accessible.
I think it is fairly accessible. I do find it, the world, it's not, even though it's a fantasy world, it's not traditional fantasy either, right? There are some different things in the world. Like, you have different weapons for different kinds of creatures, and you have to get down your silver sword versus your regular sword, for example.
But they're going to do a pretty good job of teaching you that stuff. And one nice bit is that
spells are a little different.
Right, but Geralt's story is kind of built on the amnesia clause anyway, so that helps. There's only so much you have to know about that past. Yeah. And for more, go to IGN.com's wikis and check out Witcher in 5 minutes, where you can learn the entire story of Witcher 1 and 2.
Well, also, I mean, it's funny because Witcher 1 and 2 are both they're sequels with the amnesia clause built in.
Yeah.
But they're sequels to five books, one book of short stories, some comics, and then a TV movie.
Right, the TV series.
Like, there's a lot of other stuff out there, and the guys at CD Projekt Red have said that they're building 3 to be really. It's okay if you haven't played the other stuff, just jump right in. You kind of have to, pick it up as you go along. But
I mean, it wasn't a series that I knew about before the first game came out, but I actually did read the books because I really got interested in the lore. And in Poland, it's a really popular series.
I played 2 when it came to 360, which was sort of a mistake. I played it initially on there, and I just didn't get it. I was like, "What? I don't know what's happening," and it definitely.
And that's what I heard. That's
it throws you in
kicking
and screaming. And like 2 is a pretty rigid game in terms of, especially on a console, because the loading screens are very unforgiving.
Right.
It's incredibly tedious.
That was made for PC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I remember hearing that at the time. I remember people saying, like, it doesn't run that well in 360, and it's really hard to understand, and it's like very, I don't know, like, and that has turned me off.
And combat can be tedious if you haven't played the first one. You kind of got to get down your rolls and your dodges. I mean, it's not a straight combat system. You have to play strategically.
Especially early in the game, a couple of guys are a real threat. Like 2 enemies are a real threat in Witcher 2. It's also the only video game I've ever played in a Cracker Barrel. So there's a little bit of an anecdotal Witcher 2 joy.
The restaurant, not an actual barrel full of crackers.
in the restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So, yeah.
I just pictured you eating crackers with like a barrel. And
I don't know why I decided to share that, but
all right.
It just popped into my head.
Okay, so
next subject.
On the subject of games based on books and so forth, we got a letter from someone named Steven who said, "Hello, Max, Marty, Brian, Jared. Mostly incorrect. Tal, Andrew, they spelled your names wrong. In episode 393, someone brought up what would be your dream hybrid. It got me thinking, and my mind drifted instead into what my dream project would be and who I'd want to do it. I don't know if you've heard of this, but there was a sci-fi short story turned point and click called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. The story was written by a guy named Harlan Ellison. It is an extremely dark tale on post-apocalyptic man versus machine narrative. If you haven't heard about it, check it out if you can. This is something that immediately jumps to the forefront of my brain every time I play a Telltale game, and would love to see them bring this dark narrative to this generation of games. Finally, my question to all of you is, if you could choose any developer out there to make your dream project, who and what would you choose? Keep up the good work.
I grabbed this out of the mailbag because he brought up I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. And the story, the game, I was just like, Steven, you are a kindred spirit. Have you guys ever played it? It's on good old... No?
I never had a chance to play it.
It's on good old games now, which means it'll run on any PC or Mac. So run out, spend the $6 and grab it. It's worth it. It's when people talk about mature games, this is an actual attempt to make a genuinely mature game. A game about themes of what goes inside human minds, what makes us who we are, what's broken inside us, and whether or not it's possible to repair that. It's a really wonderful game. So I just think that's rad. As for games we'd like to see, I don't know what you guys got. Who would make it and what?
I guess this is kind of a cliche, boring answer, but God, I would love to see the Dark Tower done really, really well. And honestly, like looking at Witcher footage, I can almost see CD Projekt Red doing something really interesting with it, like just making it a gigantic, sprawling world. But man, do I love that series of books. And well, I mean, the early ones, I think that it kind of gets off the rails at the end, but it stays good. Anyway, I digress. I really like Dark Tower, and yeah, I would love to see somebody tackle it. Even like I don't know, any like big open world dev.
You weren't satisfied by Roland Gilead showing up in Mortal Kombat? No. That was,
I want more Dark Tower in general. TV show, movie.
Totally.
Just Max to do a one-man show adaptation.
I just started thinking, I'm like, man, what do I like? And my favorite book is probably William Gibson's Virtual Light, which is like kind of post-cyberpunk set in futuristic San Francisco. And I was like, who would I want to do that? And I was like, who could really just nail that kind of book to game? And I was like, CD Projekt Red. And then, oh, right, they're doing Cyberpunk 2077. So
totally.
There's that. I think the one thing I'm wary about is what we've seen of that game so far is it looks like it's very much kind of playing to the kind of neuromancer world of Cyberpunk, which is cool, but it's also kind of like it's...
Is that on Good Old Games, by the way?
It's just that one teaser, right?
I don't think so.
But it's like dated... It's... What is it? Paleofuturism at this point. Like it's a future that we know isn't going to happen. Doesn't happen that way, you know. Whereas I think that Virtual Light came out in 1993, and it's incredibly like it's very close to right now. Like you've got cyber terrorists swatting people. You've got virtual reality goggles. You've got weird. I mean, a lot of cyber terrorism, and then there's also just kind of a lot of weird like class stuff happening in the Bay Area. Yep. Homelessness.
Oh, I read this recently on your recommendation. I hadn't read Virtual Light, and I was floored.
It's cool.
It's like, this is haunting.
Yeah, it's really on point. So I mean, something like that would be cool. Really, I want smart cyberpunk that's not just you get cool robot arms. And I mean, Deus Ex is great and all. Yeah, like I want stuff that addresses the kind of the socio-political, more like weird cultural side of things rather than just the cool stuff.
I mean, I want games in general to do that. Like, I would love if games examined socio-political themes more often. Like, I feel like you so rarely... I mean, it's like, I guess, like, Bioshock is the go-to, but it's like you very rarely get people looking at anything bigger than, like, oh, this is the plot, and this is what happens to this character.
Well, while we're on that, then, I'll run down that road a little bit. Mine would probably be A Mind Forever Voyaging, which is actually already a video game, but it's a text adventure, and therefore inaccessible to many people. And you talk about socio-political games. It's a game where you play as an AI. Any of you ever played it?
I played it.
Okay, you played it, yeah. I mean, one of the masterpieces of game storytelling. You're an AI in a South Dakota laboratory working with a human scientist, and your job is to try to predict the future and see if there's a way to turn America from a gradual cultural and political decline that it's experiencing. And you keep jumping ahead inside yourself in this simulation, farther and farther, trying to find a point in history that you can pivot what's happening on. And it is brilliant. Did you enjoy it, Tal?
This is what dates us. For after playing it, 25 years ago, maybe. I remember very little about the game, but I had it on my Apple. Old Infocom game, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's an old Infocom game, and it is glorious. It's also very difficult, it's not hard to play. It's just long. Anyway, I'd like to see somebody like maybe not just necessarily a studio, but grab some of the guys that gave the original BioShock, especially the first half, its heart and soul. and make that game with them. Maybe not as not as a text, but as an interactive experience of some kind. And I think those guys could really give that the treatment it deserves.
It's amazing. That's the best thing about the collapse of Irrational is that there's this incredible pool of talent that's been spread out all across the industry.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I want to get those guys together into a pool, or I just want to take all the guys from Raven that made Jedi Knight 2 and have them make Jedi Knight 3. That'd be okay too.
I would love to see a Game of Thrones RTS. So I would love to see an actual, a real-time strategy game, probably done by Creative Assembly, because I think they could do it best. With
Fascinating.
Medieval Total War kind of engine. I'm sure there's probably a mod out there, even though I haven't done much searching on there. But yeah, a real Game of Thrones where you're political intrigue, you're capturing almost like Defender of the Crown. Do you remember Defender of the Crown? Where
Absolutely.
you capture little bits of the map and you would go through. So I could almost see it being like that, right? Where you're either starting out in the north or you're starting out in King's Landing, or and you're trying to capture the map and really win the Game of Thrones. But something that has maybe even some RPG elements thrown in there.
Like Defender of the Crown.
Too.
Yeah, did
like
that totally. That's a
Crown.
great comparison. I love that idea. I would play the heck out of that. Wow.
Damn,
Someone make that.
We are in the weeds.
We are.
Okay,
all of
so
those would come to PlayStation.
yeah, we have some stuff that's coming out for PlayStation this week. Jared, you wanted to talk specifically about one of these games.
Yeah,
and that game is called Terra Cresta?
Terra Cresta, yeah. Forget that Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, folks. It's the Terra Cresta that you want. No, I was just floored when I saw this was coming out this week. Terra Cresta is a 1985 arcade shooter. That's a very interesting time in arcade games. It's this kind of arcades sort of collapsed around 84 for a while, really fell apart, and then they were reinvigorated by beat-em-ups, and then later really reinvigorated by fighting games. But there was this weird period where shooters were big. And this kind of came into the beginning of that. Terra Cresta is the sequel to a game called Terra Luna. Terra Luna. Anyway, which is a kind of a simple Galaga style shooter, and Terra Cresta is one of the first one of the first modern shooters with multiple options for your weapons, with boss encounters, with ground attack and air attack, with little dinosaurs running underneath you, and all the neat little cool things that go on in the corners of like a modern bullet hell type game. It's kind of this weird stepping stone between primitive arcade games and the kind of experiences that we'd associate with 16-bit home consoles and action games. It's very colorful. It has these kind of weird Phoenix effects to it, and lots of interesting enemies, but at the same time, it's got this kind of throwback flat look like Xavius. It's just a fascinating and important game in the history of shooters, which in turn makes it an important game in the history of arcades. So for a reasonable price, this is one to probably go check out if you care a lot about arcade history. Also, I said Terra Luna. That's wrong. My brain just broke for a second. Terra Nova? Terra Nova? No, that's Terra something. I don't remember.
Terra Reed.
Yeah, Terra Reed.
Terra Reed, yes.
That's the one.
Oh, yeah. It's getting. Well, I
Terraway.
remember this.
Was I
Go on.
right?
No, wait.
No. Moon Cresta. That's why I'm backwards. Moon Cresta was the name of the game.
I love that there's
came before.
there's like one guy out
One
there,
of-
like
one
one,
of the moon-
listener who is just
It's
like,
like-
damn it,
No,
Jared!
it's bothering me because
Don't
Moon
you
Cresta.
know anything?
No, Moon Cresta is a really cool game because it did this neat thing with the 3-life system where like every one of your lives is a different spaceship with different abilities. So it's a 3-life arcade game, standard like structure, but every time you die and come back in, you have different abilities. So it's a kind of your ships actually get more and more powerful as you get closer to the end as you're almost about to die. You're like, oh, it's my best ship, but it's my last one. It's a lot of fun.
But you've convinced me. I want to play Terra Cresta now.
Yeah, so that's so Terra Cresta is fun. I
Do
recommend
you
it.
have a price point on that?
No, I don't have a price point. That
Something
came in on the
reasonable?
drop, and I did not look it up because I'm
didn't get it written down
bad at
on
my job.
there on the note. That's coming to PS4. We've also got Aces of the Luftwaffe, which is about airplanes in the darkest hour for England, the Battle of Britain.
Yep.
There you go. That's coming to PS4 digitally. You've got Alien Shooter. Sometimes
really the name of it?
that's the name.
Yeah.
Sinister hordes of bloodthirsty aliens have infiltrated our world. Shoot them. The end.
Shoot man.
That's coming to PS Vita.
Shoot guy.
We've got Farming Simulator 2015 coming to PS4 and PS3 in digital and retail, which has brand new graphics and a brand new physics engine for that tractor.
Yep.
So you can drift it on those amber waves of grain.
We're in late spring. It's a good time. For
Everybody loves a good tractor pull. Did you go to any tractor pulls in Texas, Andrew?
No.
Do you know what those are?
It's when nope.
No. It's
Well, there
say
comes a
something.
special time in two tractors'
Lives.
lives, and they come together, and then
Like
they
a
pull
little
in
baby
other
tractor.
directions.
No, they had this where I grew up in Carolina. They're just like, there are events where people.
tug of war with tractors?
It is actually tug of war, except you're not two tractors. It's like a tractor and then just a load. And it's like, how fast and efficiently can you pull a certain amount of weight through a field? And this is a competitive sport.
They also had cow bingo.
That there is that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. We just had bars that closed early.
Oh, that's not a lot of fun.
And no crime.
And no crime. That's fine.
Very little crime. Yeah.
Weird. It's also Hyperdimension Neptunia U Action Unleashed, which is a whirlwind of 3D hack and slash action. That's coming to PS Vita, digital and retail. Then of course there's The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt coming to PS4.
Yay.
Which I have been like fritzy and angry about how much I want to play this game. Like I've been
Foaming at the
pacing.
mouth.
I've been like just kind of irritable and weird. I went to a comic shop and I was just like looking around and it just was kind of like I didn't really want anything and I went outside and I was like my fiance's like, "What, are you okay?" And I'm like, I just really want to play The Witcher. I've been it's
You're starting fistfights with strangers?
Just despondent in general.
So my worry with The Witcher is that as much time as I put into Dragon Age, I'm such a completionist that I want to see every single freaking thing in the game. So I feel like I'm going to have to play it 2 or 3 times and play it 200 hours a piece. So I feel like I'm going to put like 600 hours in this game.
It's the better value.
That kind of scares me.
sorry. Yeah, I
got to go to E3 in a month.
I played a chunk of Dragon Age, but it was not fully scratching that itch for me. And I was like, I will happily play Mass Effect if it's like this, and I will definitely play The Witcher. But like we're talking about the kind of the open worldness of The Witcher and how like you can jump and you can swim and you can go in things and you can explore and it's just this huge world and it just lets you loose there. And that's the key thing for me that really keeps me invested in a game is that sense of exploration and freedom. And Dragon Age sort of had it, but it felt like the caves were there for the enemies to be in versus the caves being there for me to go check out and just enemies happening to be there.
It was the best single-player MMO I've ever played.
Ooh.
Well put.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. So yeah, I stopped kind of prematurely in that one, and I was like, I could sink more time into this, or I could just pursue other options, and those other options
probably
come out
put about
tomorrow, so
120, 130 hours into Dragon Age, so I can only expect Witcher's going to be even bigger.
Yeah, I canceled plans to go to an anime convention, and then my mom called and asked if she could come visit me and my new house and my dog that I have, and I was like, I can't because a video game is coming out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see the
You told
anime
your mom
convention
that.
sacrifice, but blowing your mom off, that just seems like...
Yep. No, I really
that's not very
want to
nice.
play the
Your
friggin'
new
Witcher.
house.
I want to play The Witcher. We're talking about The Witcher next week. We have... Should we go to this last question? This is a pretty good one. It's from Ryan Marshall.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had any embarrassing gaming moments? For example, my dad walked in on me playing Winnie the Pooh level on Kingdom Hearts in high school. The next day, he walked in on me during the romantic lake scene in Final Fantasy X.
What about that time you didn't see your mom because she wanted to play a video game?
That was saving me embarrassment.
pretty-
Of like, why are
That's
you
pretty-
trying to have sex with the mermaids? Why is there a woman's butt cheeks there?
There's a lot of that in The Witcher.
Yeah.
There are many.
So many. There are going to be
New butt cheeks. Yeah.
Embarrassing game moments.
Is there anything that comes to your mind there? I mean, there's the requisite thrown controllers, the kicked over television sets, the broken consoles. The things that we've raged on. Certainly, that comes to mind.
I split my head open playing Bubsy when I was a kid.
How?
Because I got so frustrated, I would just like drop backwards like in frustration. And there was a rocking chair behind me, and I slammed my head into it, and I was just like gushing blood. And my mom was like walking the dog, and my sister like calmly walked outside and was like, "Oh, like Andrew split his head open." My
That's
mom was like,
amazing.
That's freaking awful. Dude.
Do you ever?
That wasn't really embarrassing so much. Well, I mean, now it's embarrassing. But back
Do you ever
then-
wonder if like maybe you died then,
Right,
And you
and
or you
it's-
just this is the
Possible.
afterlife.
Yeah, all this is a Bubsy fueled fever dream.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yes, I wonder that.
it
Often.
could be.
Yeah.
Have you played the Arcane Kids Bubsy 3D game that they made?
Sounds great.
That is available online for free. That
Arcane,
is-
I'm assuming you mean the studio that Dishonored also made a
no,
Bubsy game.
Arcane Kids, the different group
Oh,
of
the
kids.
kids of the people who worked on Dishonored.
I think
Yeah,
they never
that makes
proved it in
sense.
court or anything, but
Yeah, well, there's no official paternity test. But I mean,
Bubsy goes
Are
to
they on
the LA County Museum of Art,
Ooh,
and then he goes to hell.
ooh.
And you can play this in your browser, so go check that out. That's a really weird
I
game.
might do that. That's what we need. A
That
Bubsy
sounds
remake.
fascinating.
It's really good.
This is not officially sanctioned, I take it.
No. It's art. It's criminal
Sounds like
and
art.
weird.
I think most of mine would be would involve naked people and adolescents probably.
What?
Naked people in
With the
video
Fever
games.
Dream?
No,
oh,
embarrassing
I
video
thought you
game
were talking about
moments.
the Ideal Bubsy remake.
No, just
You had me. Yeah, okay.
No,
Yeah.
just going out there and parents and or significant others walking in at just the right moment of a video game. You talk about playing out in the Cracker Barrel with something like Witcher 2. I had to play through that. My wife's just constantly like, "Are you having sex again?" Would you come into the room?
Can you explain where you were playing a game in the Cracker Barrel?
Well, I was playing at the table.
I've never been to a Cracker Barrel, but they don't have TVs at.
They have tables. No, I had a Alienware MX-11 laptop, and I was writing the guide.
Of course.
So I was working on it there.
I like how you say duh, Tal.
Or
I've never
M11X
been to a
laptop.
Cracker Barrel, so I'm not.
Alienware used to make this 11-inch screen gaming laptop. Thing was spectacular, just wonderful. And then they stopped making the 11-inch form factor. So, but anyway, most of my embarrassing moments. I can't think of anything particularly. I'm thinking of plenty of things. I just don't want to share any of them. But they're mostly
embarrassing. Oh man,
yeah, absolutely.
They mostly
involve naked people in video games.
I think most of mine have been like my mom she never liked games. She always heard the bad things about them on the news and stuff. And I remember at one point I was like, I want to play video games, and she's like, but Max, we don't have a VCR. And I'm like, oh. And now I work here. Suck it, Mom. Anyway,
made it.
And you can't come to my house.
Yeah. But basically, I remember it was always trying to not show her the cliche violent stuff, but then she'd walk in and it's I'm playing Metal Gear Solid, and we're just putting happy faces and darts on a guard's face, or naked doing cartwheels, and or just setting things on fire in GTA, and I'm just like, no, it's not what it looks like. And it's less that I'm actually embarrassed about my own behavior, and more that I just want the video games to look good for themselves, I wish Flower had been out when I was in high school.
Yeah, just show it off.
I'm just the wind, man. It's deep.
It's so beautiful and deep and wonderful. Flower is so good.
Yeah, I think mine are I've had rage quit sessions before and things like that in online games, and looking back at that, you're like, why did I care so much about things like that? One I can think of actually that happened to involve somebody else here. Steve and I, when Steve lived on the East Coast, we used to play a lot of Marvel together, the 4-player co-op game. And there was one time I was Captain America and he was Doctor Strange, and every time we'd bust open and get some focus, I would take his focus because we were killing everything. It's like we never died in that game anyway. And he got so mad one night that he was screaming in the microphone. It's like, why are you stealing my focus? You don't need it. You're Captain America. Why are you stealing my focus? And he literally just rage quit, and it was us and 2 other friends. And we just started laughing, thinking he was going to come back. And we then found out 5 minutes later he was very serious. Heard from him the next day that he went and told his wife. He was like, I can't believe he's stealing my focus. What is he doing to me? Why is he doing that? And she's like, this is just what you guys do to each other. You both do this to each other all the time. You just egg each other on to see how far you can push it, and finally just caused him to rage quit. So that was an embarrassing moment for Steve, who's not even here to defend himself.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think
and this was
Nicely
only
done.
about 7-8 years ago. So not too long ago. We were both adult men with
that's adorable,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
That's kind of wonderful.
well, semi-adult men with wives, I guess.
I did think of one more, and that's anytime I've ever played Rock Band with anybody.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I have the manual dexterity of Stephen Hawking. And every Rock Band session goes like this. Jared, come on and play with us. No, I really don't want to. Come on, we'll have fun. I'm not any good. Oh, you're fine. And about 10 to 15 minutes later, me being shown the door. And that's how it goes every time.
Just a pile of broken instruments. and
just
blood
angry
all over the
people,
walls.
and they're just like, "Go, Jared, leave." And that's we're better without.
Well, I'm glad they stopped making those games forever.
Yeah, exactly.
We have one last thing. We have the Essential 50. Tal, you brought a game with you.
I did, my Essential 50, and we're not sure because Marty's not here. Everything's kind of gone to crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
This week, just in terms of planning. So we're not sure where the list actually is. We're not sure if Shadow of the Colossus is actually on the list. The consensus seems to be that it's not yet, and that would definitely be in my Essential 50.
It's one of those things it seems like one of those ones that we'd be like, is this on the list? Yeah, of course.
Of course it
and
is.
then we just move
but
on.
then you said no, so I'm going to roll with it still.
Yeah.
So to me, that game to me so much reminded me of how games used to be, in that there wasn't a lot of narrative. You were just kind of thrown into this world, and you just started running around and exploring, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, what I started doing instantly is I'm creating my own stories in my head. Why am I here? What am I doing? Why do I have to go run over and take down this big bad guy? What is this guy's backstory? Where did I get this cool horse? Again, games with horses, I must really like them. But to me, games back in the day, it was because of the limitation of memory, right? You couldn't put you could do a lot of text, but you couldn't do a lot of voice. You couldn't do a huge amount of narrative because you didn't want to slow down the game itself. You wanted the game to be fun. So it really was, and we've talked about this before, games like XCOM, where you would play the original XCOM, and you made a whole backstory in your head about what's going on, right? I did kind of the same thing in Shadow of the Colossus, and it really was an experience for me, and it felt really emotional and impactful, what was going on in that world. And not to give away too many spoilers, but like your perception of that world changed very drastically from when you first start playing that game to where to halfway through the game to where you end up in that game. And it really is just one of those things that made me, again, remember of the beauty and the magic of games when I was younger, and really, showed me again that there's a lot of artistry that goes into really good video game making.
Yeah.
It's one of very few. It's that very small pile of very special like journeys in there, and maybe a few others that are just like it is like, as lame as it sounds, it's an emotional experience to play through it. Like you get something out of it that transcends what you would normally get out of just like, hey, I'm gonna sit down and play with the controller for a little while. Like it actually is meaningful.
Yeah, I think a big part of it also, I love what you're saying about just, it's the brevity is the soul of wit, the show don't tell approach, where the game is explaining everything to you itself, and this is what I've absolutely hated about modern Zelda games, is that there's so much exposition and so much like world building that the world isn't doing for itself. When you've got a 6-hour tutorial, it's like you're not just free in the world, there's some games that
you can see the same thing in great movie making as well, like Mad Max Fury Road, not to give away anything in that either. But like there's so much of the story going on in a visual sense, and not just through the narrative.
Same with the rest of
Well,
us.
think about Dark Souls does the same thing. I mean, From's very good at this. They'll take the environment and let the environment tell the story, and so much of it's going on in your head, and it's a beautiful thing. And there are times, I mean, you say new Zelda games are frustrating. Old Zelda games did a pretty good job of this, just kind of letting you go out there and find a neat world and figure out what was out there.
Why is that turtle shooting cannonballs at me? I don't know, but I'm gonna kill it.
Yeah, or I'll make up my own story, and I'll have a humorous little anecdote to talk to my friend about, and then we're actually talking about games, and we're saying different things like, "Hey, did you get to this part where this happened?" Yeah, I did that. What
I really wish there were more horses. I just want
horses. So. Exactly, but it creates conversation amongst your friends too, instead of again playing the exact same linear experience where everybody's just like, "Oh, yep, did that." Right? You have different stories to tell, and you're actually making up the world partially in your head as well, which I think is a great device for imagination.
Yeah, Chris Kohler from Wired says that human beings are storytelling creatures, and that one of the things that he liked about games, say like GTA, was that you'd go out and you'd make something happen that had never quite happened to anybody else, and then you go to your buddy that night and tell him your story. This thing that happened in that world you were walking around in that day, and they tell theirs. Shadow of the Colossus does that, but it does it with a fidelity and beauty that's almost unparalleled in the medium. I think that this is kind of one of those shoe-ins to the Essential 50, a game that defines PlayStation as a great place to go play games.
I'll say mechanically could have been a little bit tighter. But again, I think you kind of you lose yourself in that world so easily that to me it's just a beautiful experience to.
Then the mechanics didn't bother me. I think playing the HD one, maybe it didn't age as well as I would have expected control-wise, but I think back in the day, it never upset me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Andrew on that one. It chugged it also, but again,
the camera was kind of.
Yeah, it was, but I feel like that's it's almost like criticizing Technicolor in an old movie at this point.
Yeah. All right. Accepted. Beautiful. Done. On that note,
Bing.
If you guys want to write in, it is beyond@ign.com. We get emails.
Beyond.
Ask us about ask Goldfarb about his various other Bubsy-related injuries.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are many. Each episode, I'll come back.
The many trials of
new
Bubsy.
related injury. That's wonderful.
You can follow us all on Twitter. I'm Max Scoville. Jared, you are Petty, Jared.
I am indeed. COMMA.
Tal, you are Tal_IGN. Is that
Just
right?
Tal IGN.
Just Tal IGN? Okay.
Like Taline.
Taline.
Like a line with a T in front.
I like that.
Tal IGN.
Yes. And
You can't spell Tal IGN without IGN.
Goldfarb, what are you?
I'm Garfep.
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 I once called you Garfield.
A
by
lot
accident.
of people do.
Yeah, because
You
it's
can
because you
call me
garf and then Goldfarb. I don't know.
I like it.
Sometimes
I hate Mondays.
Yeah.
I love lasagna.
There we go.
There you
That's
go.
good.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's better than Garfap.
Yeah.
Is it?
Definitely. What's your middle name, Andrew?
Ryan. My name's Andrew Ryan.
Andrew Ryan.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you all for
had
listening.
fun here.
And on that note, beyond.
Beyond.
Beyond.